Good morning and welcome to the show. This is Choosing Life, Addiction and Recovery. I'm your host, Suzi Marsh from the Alliance Center. You may want to grab a pen and paper in case you're interested in phone numbers or in obtaining tapes of the program. I will be giving out the phone numbers at the end of the show. And let me begin today's show by telling you a little bit about kind of this three-part series. Last week you heard the first show about the Whole Life Expo, and this is the second show while we are discussing the Whole Life Expo. And today, one of the speakers from the Whole Life Expo is with us by telephone, and that is Dr. Doreen Virtue. And welcome to the show, Doreen.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be with you.
I really appreciate you coming on the air with me. Dr. Virtue is a PhD. She holds a bachelor's, a master's, and doctoral degrees in counseling psychology. She used to be in Nashville running a psychiatric hospital there, which I was interested in. She's a frequent lecturer and a talk show guest, and she has written 12 books. Well, that's a lot of books. With 1.5 million copies in print worldwide, including 6 books about spirituality published by Hay House. And is this your most recent book, The Lightworker's Way?
This is my brand new baby, yes.
And the cover is gorgeous, and she's beautiful, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great cover. I loved it. It's all of it is beautiful. Your picture, the sunset, all of it. So, if you don't mind, I know that a lot of my listeners are in recovery. So, if you could just start a little bit by saying how personally you got so involved and interested in your own sort of path.
Well, I have had a long and rich history involving addictions. I actually started out, my mother, who's a spiritual healer, had a part-time job at Weight Watchers. And so she pretty much talked a lot about food and eating when I was growing up, and pretty much it was healthy. I didn't think much about it, though, until I was a young housewife in my early 20s, 2 little baby boys, and I started to feel like something more was a part of my life, and it was missing. I knew that raising my kids was really important, but it just felt like there was something I was supposed to do in the world, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And I started praying, actually, to get guidance as to what it was that I was to contribute. And I started to get strong messages that I was supposed to be a healer and to write books. Well, this actually intimidated the life out of me, Suzi. I couldn't, for the life of me, think what I could write about, how I would get published, how I could heal or help anyone. I just really had low self-esteem. And I started to try and turn off this answer to my prayers, if you will, this guidance. I found that if I ate a lot of ice cream and bread products,
right,
that I could shut off the divine guidance temporarily. And so I really started addictively overeating. More, not because I was hungry, but because I really was running away from God's guidance. And I actually ended up gaining 50 pounds this way. It was after 50 pounds that I finally had to face God and surrender, is what I call it, and say, look, I have no idea how I'm going to fulfill this guidance that you're giving me. I have no money. I don't have any time. I really don't think I'm intelligent enough to do this. But if you'll show me how, I'll listen and I'll follow. And I really felt in my mind I would give him about 3 days. And then if I couldn't figure out how to follow the path within 3 days, I would just go back to my old way of trying to control everything and do it myself. But right away, I got specific guidance, very specific steps, and they would be repeated to me over and over again until I followed them. And I followed each of those steps, and within a very short amount of time, doors started opening, money appeared in ways that I couldn't have planned or controlled for. And I kept on listening to God because of that, and I lost the weight just even without thinking about it. Although later on in my my career, after I became a healer, and I got all those things that I had been told to get, write books, become a healer, I kind of took back control from God after that point. It was kind of like, okay, thanks for the gifts, now I'll take over. And I went back to overeating, and at that point I went to a recovery group specializing in overeating. That really was a godsend to me. So I became an eating disorder therapist and have used a combination of teaching my clients how to hear the voice of God and also really promoting some of these recovery groups that are around the country that are really answers for those of us who don't know how to surrender, who don't know how to be humble and the important parts of recovery. What was interesting also is, okay, I finally got it through my head that I needed to take my eating one meal at a time. I got that through my head. But I ended up switching addictions. I found that at that point that I was doing healing work that was not really that meaningful to me. It was kind of like, oh yeah, this helps people. But deep down, my heart wasn't into that particular form of healing.
Mm-hmm.
And so to get up in the morning to face this job that I really didn't care for, I would drink a lot of coffee. And that was one of my addictions. And then at night, to turn it all off, I would drink wine. And I found that that cycle of up in the morning with caffeine, down in the night with wine was socially acceptable. All my friends were doing it. But at the same time, it was keeping me from acknowledging my inner guidance that was saying, you need to go walk in integrity. You need to have your whole life match what your inner guidance says. And I was thinking, I can't make a living that way. One night, I heard this voice, and I had heard it once before in my life. And this voice, it was a male voice outside my right ear, clearly, as loud as you can hear me, said to me, quit drinking and get into Course in Miracles. Just like that.
I remember reading that in your book.
And if you also recall, I didn't know what A Course in Miracles was at the time. I thought it was a place you go and you take a class. And at that moment, I didn't want to quit drinking either, so I ignored it. And for about 6 months, I would talk to people about what this voice said, and some of my drinking buddies, as you can imagine, said, oh, you're not going to listen to that voice, are you? It's funny, they didn't discount the voice, but they were worried that I would follow its advice.
Wow.
But within about 6 months, where I kind of had to figure out that this is what I wanted, I ended up buying the spiritual text, A Course in Miracles, and quitting drinking the very same day. And I haven't wanted to drink since, nor overeat. I really feel like my recovery hinges upon always being honest with myself and listening to God's guidance.
What you're saying is very important for several reasons for me personally, and I know for people that are listening, those that are in recovery or those that are wanting recovery. And I notice myself every once in a while increasing coffee, and I've just been thinking about it, praying about it, and I'm going, okay, I got it, all right. So,
and I don't think there's anything, quote, bad or wrong with the substance.
Unless you're feeling in your gut, you know there's a reason you do it.
That you're using it.
Exactly.
And the religious background that I was raised in, we weren't allowed to have coffee. And the reason they told us is, thou shalt have no other gods before me. And I think that sometimes that's true. I think that sometimes we do use substances as a God substitute. It's easier to listen to a lot of coffee than it is to God, who's telling us to change jobs when we feel very financially insecure, or when God tells us to heal our relationships when we're feeling like, gee, this is the only partner I can get, and I better not speak up because then I'll be alone.
Right.
All those insecurities that keep us betraying ourselves. And so I think we dive under the cover of substances like sugar and for me, ice cream, which of course is sugar plus fat, and alcohol, because it just seems simpler than trying to change our lives. I've found, and I've been a psychotherapist since '84, and I've found consistently that whenever there was addictions involved, it really was the person being afraid of fulfilling their divine life purpose. And I've also found something interesting, that the bigger their purpose is, now we all have big purposes, but some of us are supposed to touch a lot of lives, and so I call that a big purpose. The bigger the person's purpose, the bigger their fear, and the bigger their tendency is to be an addictive personality.
Mm-hmm. Almost like the more power inside, the more they're trying to harness it with something. Does that?
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah.
I mean, you go into any 12-step meeting, you're going to find a lot of powerful light workers there.
Wow. Well, can I, if I'm incorrect, let me know, but
Mm-hmm.
when I was looking through your book and reading about your childhood, Church of Religious Science or Christian Science?
Christian Science, right.
Is that the one that does not believe in any doctors at all?
Well, let me say yes to the spirit of your question, and then
Okay.
and then the line that we're taught to say when people ask us that, because we get that question all the time, is, of course we believe in doctors, they're everywhere.
Uh-huh.
So how could you not? And then, there's been a lot of bad press with Christian Science, which, by the way, I have accepted into my heart, but I no longer am a practicing Christian Scientist. So I'm saying this as someone raised in Christian Science but no longer active in the church.
I was curious because of everything I read about you in your book. It was obviously you're very well educated and very broad-minded and have such a worldly experience. So I guess I was very curious about that. I'm sure that was hard to make that decision.
Well, it's a very tough religion. Like we said, it makes you promise never to drink coffee. Of course, no caffeine, no alcohol, no tobacco. Nothing that would be another god, in other words.
Mm-hmm.
And we were very strictly brought up never to learn about the body or disease or talk about disease or watch any medical commercials. Or
I didn't know that.
Because the belief is that if you learn about an illness, then your consciousness can create that in your body, which we now know is true.
Right.
And so I still, to this day, when a medical commercial comes on for, one of those medicines, I will either turn off the sound or say an affirmation to counter its fearful message.
Wow.
And I think that's a pretty healthy way to grow up. But as a and I loved the religion growing up. It was just the most beautiful experience to have. But when I got to be a teenager, I really felt like a freak or a weirdo because my other friends were experimenting with pot and alcohol and smoking cigarettes, and here that was considered, we didn't use the word sin in the church, but it was pretty much like a sin if you would do that. And so I felt like this straight geeky kid, and I wasn't allowed to take health classes, and all my friends were in health classes. I just had to take art classes as substitutes. By law, Christian Scientists don't take those classes in school. So I wanted to be like everyone else.
Right.
And I finally said, heck with this religion, I'm going to go be a normal teenager, and I went full force, as any addictive personality does. It's all or nothing. So I started smoking cigarettes and smoking pot and drinking alcohol, and the highlight for me, in a negative sense, in a way, but was I got kicked out of Christian Science church camp for sneaking in marijuana joints. And that was considered blasphemy, because any church camp would frown on drugs, but here was a Christian Science church camp out in Colorado, and drugs were just you can't even have aspirin there. So it was considered a big no-no. But what happened was my parents picked me up at the airport after the church kicked me out, and I flew back home, and my mom began to pray for my addiction to marijuana. And this was when I was a late teenager. And she didn't tell me she was doing this. For one thing, I didn't think I had a problem. And another thing is I would not have thought prayer could help me, because I was so far away from God consciousness that to me prayer was something laughable. So she wisely didn't tell me, she didn't lecture me about getting kicked out. She just prayed, and she had friends praying. Well, it was one of the miracles in my life that one day I was sitting with my friends in one of those circles where you pass joints around, and a joint got to me, and I absolutely had no desire to take it at all. It was just like I had never tried it. It was so foreign to even think about smoking it. And I had really gotten into marijuana quite a bit. I mean, even to the point where I was dealing kilos now and then for friends. And so, I mean, it was really had become my lifestyle as a teenager. And so to have this complete healing where I had no desire for it, just black and white, was evidence to me of prayer's effectiveness, because it wasn't a placebo effect, because I didn't know it was happening, and I wouldn't have wanted it. It just happened, and my mother knew it would work, and she had complete faith, and that's, of course, the ingredients that make prayer work. So I've had a lot of experiences we talked about in the beginning with addictions and the spiritual healing of addictions.
Well, I'm also thinking about your mother sounds like a very powerful healer herself.
She is, and if you met her, she's one of the most humble people you'd ever meet. She's a real kind of wallflower type. She's very happy, and she's not shy, but she's very much got it that all power in the universe is love, and that's it. There's no other power but love, and God is love, and therefore you don't even have to think about anything else. I believe that spirituality is very simple now. I didn't used to believe it. I used to try and complicate it and think that you had to have this formula of gurus and teachers, and you had to buy this kind of incense and that kind of crystal. But I really have now come back to basics, that it's just about love. And and we are already whole, we are already perfect, we're already complete. Everything about us in truth is already healed. And when we hold that knowledge in truth, that we are healed, the outer person, the personality, heals in all ways. It lets go of its addictive appetites, it lets go of so-called character defects, etc. It just heals naturally to the truth.
Wow, I'm looking at your press packet here, and it says, I didn't know this, this is impressive for those of you that just tuned in and are listening. Doreen Virtue, PhD, has written several books, and I'm looking here in your press packet, it says that you have been on Oprah, Ricky Lake, and Montel about the book Losing Your Pounds of Pain, and Constant Craving. Both of those titles are great.
Well, I became an eating disorder specialist, and because of my upbringing, I blended it with spirituality right from the get-go. It was interesting that when I first started out in counseling, I worked at a care unit. I don't know if you remember care units. But they were inpatient alcohol and drug units. And I noticed right off the bat that someone addicted to one kind of substance had a very different personality than someone addicted to another kind of substance.
Right.
For instance, someone on coke is very different than someone on heroin or marijuana. And I just started kind of cataloging in my mind these different personality traits. And then later, when I had the opportunity to open my own eating disorder unit, I had the same revelation that people who abuse bread are very different than people who overeat ice cream, who are also different than those who eat salty junk food or spicy foods. And I started again cataloging this, and I did a ton of research on the psychoactive mood-altering chemicals within each food.
Great.
And I found that every food we crave either increases or decreases our energy via our blood pressure, or it increases or decreases our mood. And that we are acting like well-trained pharmacists when we crave a certain food. And so I got to the point where I could ask someone, what are you craving? And I could know all about them just by that. And they started to call me the food psychic. And of course,
I love it.
The truth is that I like everyone, am highly psychic. But it started out kind of in a backwards way, and I did food craving analysis on Bill Donahue, on Geraldo Rivera, and Sally Jess Raphael, and so I was really confident to go out on the limb and do live on national TV these food craving analysis, and it was always accurate. Always.
Well, can we do one right now?
Sure.
I always crave hot sauce, and you could probably tell me how I look from this, I bet. I crave hot sauce and chips all the time, and I eat a lot of cheese, but my favorite thing is very hot. I mean, I can eat jalapenos.
It's interesting that every talk show host, including Donahue, you're in good company here, Donahue, Geraldo, Sally, all crave hot, spicy food. And there's no accident. It's because this is a person who has a high tolerance and also desire for excitement and adrenaline. And it's the food of the adrenaline rush set.
That's true, isn't it? I forgot. That's right.
And the chips have to do with a way to kind of gnaw away the tension that goes along with that lifestyle. Because while you're on the high wire, there is some tension, and you can love it, but you got to get rid of it later. So you're chewing on popcorn, pretzels, nuts, chips. It just soothes you. Now, if you like sharp cheese on it, is it sharp cheddar? You like sharper the better?
Actually, I do like sharper the better.
Okay. Sharper the better is interesting. It's in a category of its own by cheese. It increases your blood pressure with a chemical called tyramine. So if you're feeling a little tired, again, because you've really kind of pushed yourself that day, there's nothing like a sharp cheddar cheese, sliced or melted, it's like a cup of coffee. It just increases your energy immediately.
Well, let me let you guess about my body type. Can you? Of course, if it doesn't work, we'll just go back. We'll just erase this part.
Well, it's hard to tell over the phone, but often people who like a lot of cheese carry some weight in their stomach. And, they have a little bit of a pouch in their stomach.
No, I'm 6 foot tall, 36, 24, 30. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
I'm lying. No, my body type is probably a little bit more like Sally Jesse Raphael's.
Yeah.
But I just wondered if people that craved really hot, spicy foods were like that. But all of those...
I've not found a correlation with that. It's more like their personality, their jobs.
Okay.
And, there's things like people who are having financial difficulties, they love McDonald's. That's their favorite food because of the high fat. And nothing against McDonald's. I want to make sure this is not a put down of anyone, but the people who are in jobs where they're very low pain and they are always looking over their shoulder because they might get a pink slip.
Wow.
They're the ones at McDonald's every lunchtime, because high-fat foods absolutely fill up that emptiness that goes along with having job insecurity and financial insecurity. And every food that you crave is like that.
Like comfort food?
Comfort food is of course one category, which tends to be your soft rolls, and classic is soft mashed potatoes. In my book Constant Craving, which is published by Louise Hay, it's got a chart very similar to the You Can Heal Your Life or You Can Heal Your Body chart.
Right.
And in the back it's got about 300 different types of foods, very specific foods, and it tells the metaphysical meaning or emotional meaning.
Oh, I love it.
Each food, and then a corresponding affirmation that you can use to heal the underlying issues.
Okay, that's great. I'm going to say that again. The book Constant Craving has a chart with a food craving and the corresponding affirmation. That's fantastic. I'm going to get that book and use it.
Thanks. It's very popular because, it can be really unnerving to be told by the diet industry there's something wrong with you for having food cravings. And they'll tell us to use another substance to cover it up.
Right.
Of course, we had the fen-phen. Now we have fen, and the herbalists will tell you, drink this herbal tea, and other people will say, well, do this or do that. And the whole consistent message there, I'm sure you'll agree, is that you're bad, you're wrong,
right.
There's something wrong with you. And no, that's not it at all. It's our cravings show that we're perfect, we're exactly as we're supposed to be, because our body is talking to us loud and clear. And if we would only understand its language, and that's what Constant Craving is, it's a translation guide. If we would just understand what it's saying, we can be partners with our appetite, and it'll show us what jobs we'd be best in, what relationships we'd be happiest in, etc.
Wow. Well, this is fascinating. If you just tuned in, we are listening to and talking with Dr. Doreen Virtue, who is author of several books. The latest is The Lightworker's Way, and she is on the air because she'll be in town soon, and you can go see her in person at the Whole Life Expo. And her lecture at the whole weekend, the Whole Life Expo goes for the weekend. Her special lecture will be Sunday, that's November 16th at 5 p.m., and again, we'll be talking about that at the end of the show. So we're going to have to take a break in just a few minutes. And is there anything on this first half of the show, is there anything else, Doreen, that would be important to talk about as far as addictions and eating disorders?
I think, what we should say before we go to the break is that your addiction is trying to tell you something.
Okay.
And it's nothing that we need to feel bad about. We certainly don't need to feel ashamed of ourselves or that we're weak or, somehow we're missing something. It's actually something to be, I think, grateful for, because what it is it's just God's broadcasting system through us, and there's nothing to fear.
I remember learning about that 14 years ago when I was taught about self-discovery and personal growth, and people saying, well, one day you'll feel grateful, and you're having this problem right now, Susie, if you could just embrace it and feel grateful. And I thought, I'm going to scream. But, and you probably already know this, somebody told me or taught me later, it may have been Barbara Brennan's book, that when you actually have the attitude of gratitude, that all of the chakras line up and supposedly spin the appropriate way.
I agree.
And it makes so much sense. It just took me like 10 years to practice it, but it makes so much sense now. And in the beginning, when you're so in so much pain, it's so hard to do. But I think that you're right, and I'm glad you reframed it and said it that way. We are coming to the end of the first half of our show, and if you just tuned in, again, we're speaking with Dr. Doreen Virtue, and during the second half, we will explore this topic more in depth. Especially, we will be looking more at light workers and how many people are being called to be healers now. So let me remind you that you may want to get a pen and paper to write down the phone numbers about the Whole Life Expo, about information how to get Dr. Virtue's books, and a copy of the tape of the show or anything else. So sit tight for the second half of Choosing Life. This is Suzi Marsh from the Alliance Center. Stay tuned. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to Choosing Life, Addiction and Recovery. I'm your host, Suzi Marsh from the Alliance Center. If you just joined us, I would like to remind you that we will give out the phone numbers at the end of the show, so you may want to get that pen and paper now. Today, we've been speaking with Dr. Doreen Virtue, and she and I are having a great time. And in this half of the show, we want to explore her latest book even more in depth. Again, The Lightworker's Way by Doreen Virtue, Ph.D., and that's published by Louise Hay of Hay House, and she talks a lot about her own personal experience in recovery and how her history of addictions helped her discover a very strong spiritual path. And maybe you could just tell us a little bit about what a light worker is, Doreen.
Well, sure. But you know, one thing I just want to mention real quick, because everyone always asks this, Susie, is yes, Virtue is my real name.
Yeah, that's right. I wondered.
Everyone always assumes I made it up, like
she made it up.
Crystal Light,
right?
The spiritual names. And so, anyway, that's my real name. It's way too corny to have made it up. I would have made up something much more subtle. Making something. So, to get back to your question about what a light worker is, in reality, I think all of us are light workers, but some of us have elected, if you will, before coming into this life on earth, to do a purpose or a service for others. And so a light worker is someone who feels called to heal or to teach others. A light worker wants to help resolve the world's seeming social and environmental problems. They believe that a spiritual method can heal just about any or all situations. Most light workers have had mystical experiences, really common that they've had an angelic encounter or a psychic premonition or something out of the ordinary that they can't explain. Light workers also have usually endured harsh life experiences that ended up eroding their own knowledge of their divine perfection. They forgot who they were, in other words. You're a light worker if you want to heal your own life as a first step in healing the world. And also, Susie, most light workers have this strong, compelling drive to write, to teach, to counsel others about what they've learned, about their healing experiences. And finally, a light worker knows that they are here for a higher purpose, even if they can't remember what that purpose is. And so I think most light workers know that they are one, and it's nothing that's, quote, special, because specialness is a thought of the lower ego self that tries to tell you that you're better or less than other people. What a light worker is simply someone who's spiritually aware, who is here to light the candle in other people's minds, the sleeping brothers and sisters of the world. So we really have to walk like we talk, those of us who are light workers. We cannot afford to really slip into dishonesty with ourselves. I mean, sure, we go into denial. Denial is a part of living. But as soon as we get honest with ourselves, we have an obligation, not only to ourselves, but to our sleeping brothers and sisters, to heal ourselves and to heal whatever it is that seems to be in the way of our own joy. Because what a light worker is about is someone who is supposed to glow with the inner happiness of knowing their God self and knowing that they are loved, that they are safe, that they are protected. And that glow is unmistakable. Everyone notices it, even if they have no spiritual awareness at all. You can glow in the post office, the store, the bank, in line, getting gas. You can glow when you're driving down the freeway, and other people will notice. They may not know how to describe it or what they're seeing, but it will change their lives forever. So teaching, as light workers are teachers and healers, and we don't necessarily have to do this for a profession where we get paid. It can just be something that we do throughout the day, no matter what job we have. However, I find that most light workers are not happy unless they're in a meaningful job. If they're doing things that are out of integrity with themselves. For instance, a few years back, I was writing articles for magazines about topics that had no meaning to me at all. I mean, I thought, yeah, they're helping people, but basically I was writing those horrible articles for women's magazines that you always see that say, is he the right man for you? And 10 signs to know if he's going to break up with you. And these really codependent topics. And Susie, I got paid a ton of money to write these things. I mean, so much money.
How'd you resist it? I don't know if I could say no.
It was Well, my angels basically confronted me, and
Uh-huh.
they said, "You can't do this. You have to walk in integrity, Doreen. You have to give up these things that don't mirror who you know you are." And I decided, just like you did. I said, "But it's so much money, and I don't know where I'm going to replace this money, and it's so easy." And I rationalized it by saying, "Yeah, but it's flowing," because the editors were calling me. I wasn't asking for the work; it was coming to me.
Wow.
So, well, it's flowing, so it must be part of God.
Right, right.
But I knew in my heart it wasn't. Because you know how I knew? I got no joy out of it.
Yeah.
I would see my name in those magazines at the newsstands. You know, I'd go to grocery stores or
Right.
Barnes & Noble, and I would see my name plastered in all these major slick magazines, and I would have zero joy.
Wow.
And I know that the key to knowing that it's your path is when you have joy.
Right.
So I started saying no to the editors when they would call and say, "Doreen, do you want to do the story? Here's $500 or $1,000." And it would be maybe, 2 hours, 3 hours work.
Wow.
And, yeah, it just about, it was very painful in the beginning to say no. But it was always followed by a feeling of intense elation that I had been true to me.
Right.
And I demonstrated to the universe that I was ready to walk in faith. And always, every time I would turn down, and I still do it to this day because some of the editors still call me, every time I would close one door that wasn't right for me, another door would open that was right. And so now I'm making good money writing for spiritual magazines and finding that I have more money now than I did when I was selling myself out.
Oh.
So it was such a miracle to know that you can live your life 100% in integrity. You don't have to compromise. You don't have to sell out. And we certainly don't need to struggle for our money. One of the things I'll be talking about a lot at the Whole Life Expo, and we'll be going through a healing, very powerful meditation to heal away financial beliefs that keep you from really knowing the abundance that is supposed to be part of your life. One of the beliefs I had was that a spiritual person is supposed to struggle for money and to have security. Now, I never wanted to be, filthy rich. That wasn't my goal. But I wanted financial security. But at the same time, I had this doubt whether that was spiritually correct. Do you know what I mean? A part of me thought that spiritual seekers sold everything that they had and went and walked in the desert.
Right.
And I had to heal my beliefs about money because part of me was sabotaging and pushing money away unknowingly. And when I healed the beliefs, and I started to know that I deserved to have my material needs met, that the promise in Matthew that says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all the rest will be added unto you," was absolutely God's solemn promise.
Well, what about the one that says it is easier for a rich man to go through the eye of a camel than that's the one that makes me go, see, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, be poor.
I think, and of course, all the Bible's open to interpretation. But my understanding of that is that someone with a money consciousness, if that's all they think about,
True,
then they are very earthbound in their thinking. And if all we're thinking about is money, whether it's worrying about money or whether it's loving money, to me, they're identical. They're two sides of the same coin. But if you let go of thinking about money and just have it be a non-issue, it's just a non-issue.
Oh, that's a great way to think of it.
And detach from it. And my friend and publisher Louise Hay said that when she started to put all of her thoughts into just serving the world, and as you may know, Louise came from just a horrendously poor background. And as a child, she didn't even have her own bedroom. She slept on the family sofa.
Mm-hmm.
And when she turned her financial life around, when she started to just solely put all of her focus on what can I do to help, what can I do to serve, she found that money flowed into her life effortlessly and quickly. And she's never looked back. She's never had the obsession with money. And again, I want to reinforce that obsession with money can run two ways, worrying about it and coveting it.
I've never, ever thought of the fact that I worry constantly about money as an obsession, and it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense.
I think that, yes, for many of us light workers, and you certainly are a light worker, Suzi.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, you are. You're a great healer and teacher. Many of us light workers, our lower ego self does not want us to be healers. Our lower ego self does not want us to let go of fear and to really know our power, our glory, our grandness. Since we are made in the image and likeness of an all-powerful, all-loving, an awesome God, we share those characteristics. And our lower ego self does not want us to know that because it has an investment in keeping us fearful, in keeping us wrapped in shame, and in all of those feelings that keep us down. If we all remembered who we are, the world would never be the same.
I know you're right. You're so right. I know you are.
So when we get these fears, I think it's really important that we don't beat ourselves up over it. That's another ego trip, is to say, I'm bad. A spiritual person wouldn't have this kind of fear. I should be more evolved than that.
Yes, you're right.
Whenever we struggle with the ego in any way, we give it power, we give it size. But if we simply just notice it, this is what the Eastern philosophies do, is they just notice it and say, aha, I'm having a fear, no big deal. And what I've done is I've learned that if I hand that fear over to the angels that are always around us, as if I'm handing them, something I don't need, yesterday's newspaper, it's gone. It's just gone. And I don't give that fear any power, because it has no power in truth unless I give it to it. Then I come back into my God consciousness that knows that all is well, everything's great, this is a wonderful world, people are fantastic, and all of those truths that we can forget.
That is so beautiful. I'm can't think of anything to say because I was sitting here taking in what you were saying. I forgot I was doing a radio show. So,
there is a lot of good news in the world, and we have to remind ourselves of this. It's not that the world's bad and we have to go heal it. It's actually that the world's kind of neutral in truth, and we get to color it with whatever color we decide to use. And I think we should choose a really happy world for ourselves.
Well, what I was thinking as you were describing that was what it was like early on in this process for myself and how I watch my clients early on in their process where there's like very little hope. People aren't fantastic. They're horrible and bad. And I was thinking how nice it is to just barely remember what that was like.
Yeah.
And now it's the opposite. It's like things are beautiful. And I mean, it sounds so silly, but it's true. It's the opposite.
It is. And I remember that too. And I still have a counseling practice myself part-time now, and I do also find that many people new on this path are just really filled with blame, mostly blaming themselves, but also blaming them, that etheric, those people out there that do everything to you.
Right.
And to me, one of the most beautiful parts of the healing career I have is to help my clients, to empower them by seeing that no one is out to get you, no one is stopping you but yourself. And you can give yourself permission. You can be your own authority figure, in other words. You can give yourself permission to have a wonderful life, to make all your dreams come true, plus more that you don't even know you have.
It's amazing. I mean, things look so different, and it's probably no mistake that everything that has been happening for me probably in the last year or two, maybe more in the last year, is about the spiritual life and about I think it says, or Marianne Williamson said, that maybe it comes from A Course in Miracles, that sometimes a miracle is a change in perception.
Yes.
And that my perception now is so completely different than back in the beginning, and that people more involved in the spiritual path seem to be more in my path now.
Isn't that the truth, that you attract people at your own level of vibration? So if you were talking about chakras earlier, and those are the energy centers in the spiritual and emotional body, which we'll be working on at the Whole Life Expo workshop. But the lower chakras have to do with money, desires for addictions, and power. And when we're newly on the path, our thinking and our consciousness tends to be in those lower chakras. We're worried about, where will I have a place to live? Will I have a job next year? How will I afford to go Christmas shopping? All of those material kind of consciousness focus. And it makes us vibrate at a level that attracts others into our lives who also have those same issues. And the more that we get up in our consciousness, and the next area, of course, is to go into focusing on love, and then focusing on truth, and then focusing on spiritual communication and oneness with God. The higher up in consciousness we go, the more we attract loving, spiritually minded people into our lives automatically. Haven't you found that to be the case, Susie?
Exactly.
You don't have to consciously look for folks. They just come to you.
Exactly. Automatically. It is like water, attracting water.
Yeah. When
Well,
I work with people with relationship issues, I teach them that. You know, how many times have you worked with people who say, all the guys in the world are jerks?
Right.
Or they'll say, there's no good women out there.
Right.
And I'll have them look at their own consciousness and what are you mirroring?
Exactly, what are you mirroring? And I just, it's so funny to listen to you and remember the opposite. Everything looked that way. we have less than 10 minutes left, so I was wondering, would you be willing to talk about kind of your psychic experiences and how your healing led you to? I can't imagine, literally, Doreen. I can't imagine seeing spirits, and I've certainly have had mystical experiences, but never seeing anything.
Well, it's a gift that we all have, actually. In my book, The Lightworker's Way, I talk about the latest scientific studies that show that all of us, men, women, whatever age you are, whatever your religious, spiritual background is, all of us have the gift of prophecy, as Paul called it, or the ability to read minds and also to see angels, to see spirit guides or deceased loved ones, if we choose. And that's the big thing, is choice. Again, at the Whole Life Expo workshop I'm conducting, I'll be doing this powerful meditation to awaken spiritual healing and psychic power for people who choose to open this up. I've found that the gift of prophecy and being able to see spirits helps others so much. Just yesterday I had a session with a woman who her husband had been murdered, and the police had never solved the case, and so she just, for her own sake, needed to know how he'd been killed. So I had a session where, as a medium, I had conversations with the husband, and he showed me his murder and took me through it, and I was able to tell her what had happened, and of course she was crying, but there was so much relief and healing within her because finally she knew the truth. So the gift of psychic work is just like any other gift.
Wait, I have to ask you, when you first started having that experience, did you say, and I think I read this in your book, did you say, oh, this can't be true, I'm making it up?
Yeah. Well, at first, I had it as a little girl. Like a lot of children, I saw angels, and I also saw deceased people. But my mother, who was not clairvoyant at the time, convinced me that I was just seeing things, that they were just my imagination. And so I thought, well, my mommy's never wrong, so I turned off my third eye, which is the center of clairvoyance. And it wasn't until later, and actually part of my recovery, the reason the angels told me to quit drinking, and they also changed my diet, was because when we're abusing substances, it turns off our psychic abilities quite a bit. So one of the reasons they told me to quit drinking and to eat a more vegetarian diet was because they knew that I would need my psychic abilities back open to do the type of healing work I was called to do. So I do a real eclectic practice now where kind of whatever I need to do, if I need to do a psychic reading on someone, if I need to talk to their angels or talk to an ascended master such as Jesus or Mary, then whatever is needed is what I do. And it's just nice to have all these tools. That's all it is. It's just having tools open and available to you.
Well, you started to say more about the session with the woman whose husband was murdered?
Yeah. It had a profound effect on her, and on me, actually. It was very touching because throughout the session, the husband was saying, you've got to forgive. Please, please forgive. And what he told me, which was kind of surprising, was how much this woman was blaming herself.
Oh.
She felt like she could have prevented his murder if only she'd put her foot down more and said that one night that he got killed, stay home, because she'd had a feeling something was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And she felt deep down that she hadn't been insistent enough. And the husband basically told her from the other side, through me, that, look, this was not preventable, that he had, in a way, almost knew this was going to happen, and it was part of his soul's journey to die young. And now part of her life work is to help other survivors of murders to go on. So she was able not only to know the truth about the murder, but also to forgive herself. We used angelic healing in the session, and it's a way to almost painlessly let go of those things that are burdens on your soul. I do a lot of cases like that where there's missing children. You know, I will find them psychically. A lot of times where parents lost a child and didn't get a chance to say goodbye. And it's very touching. I'm doing what I consider to be family therapy across the veil of death.
Wow.
And it's very touching.
Well, I hate to say it, but I wish somebody would find John Benet Ramsey's killer. I mean, I still think that one is weird.
Well, and you may have read in The Lightworker's Way where I talk about my dealings with Nicole Brown. And
no, I didn't.
Yeah. Well, when I was watching I don't watch much TV, but when I was watching the close of the Simpson trial, I saw Nicole in the courtroom very clearly.
Oh my goodness!
And she was so angry. Her face was puffed up and red, almost like one of those clouds, pointing and screaming, "He did it! He didn't! Didn't you know that he did it? He did it!" And she was so frustrated, Susie, because no one could see or hear her, except for people like me who've got their spiritual vision open, and I can also hear.
And she was pointing to
OJ.
That's
yeah, and she was just furious that she couldn't get anyone to pay attention to her, and she was just filled with rage and blame and unforgiveness. And then later, I had a one-on-one meeting with Denise Brown all by myself, where I was interviewing her for a magazine, and Nicole was there with her. And this time, this was about 5 months later after the verdict. This time, Nicole's spirit was at peace. I could tell that she had forgiven OJ, that she'd forgiven herself and others. And that's the heart of peace. Whether you're in a body or out of a body, that's what we're all here to learn, is how to forgive. So,
wow. I'm going to let you know we have about 3 minutes left.
Okay.
So what else would be important for people to know?
Well, I think the most important thing that I'd like to end with is that if you feel guided to change your life, to fit your higher self design, what you know deep down you're capable of doing and having and being, I urge you to think about coming to the Whole Life Expo, to my Lightworker's Way workshop at 5 p.m. on Sunday, November 16th, because I'm giving this workshop across the country, and everybody that I talk to afterwards consistently says, "Thank you for changing my life." Now, I don't take credit for this. This is God working through me. This is my Lightworker mission. But I find that everyone who comes to the workshop, often they're in tears, but they're smiling through their tears, faces their realization of what they're here for. They often remember what their purpose is, and they also get very honest and empowered. So it's a workshop that is worth your time, your money, and your effort, because it's not me doing it, it's the angels and God healing lives and opening the Lightworker's gifts that are already within you.
Doreen, I really appreciate you coming on the air with me. It's been, for me, a very enlightening and warm experience.
Susie, you're a soul sister. I hope I do get to meet you.
I hope I'm going to be at your workshop. I'm going to try really hard to get there, so I hope I'll get to meet you then.
I'd love to give you a big hug when you come there.
Me too. So thanks again. And if you just tuned in, again, that was Doreen Virtue, Ph.D. Her book is The Lightworker's Way.